Valtteri Bottas, Ryu Hirakawa in place of Ollie Bearman at Haas. Franco Colapinto sitting this one out for Paul Aaron for Alpine. Paul Aaron, who's also been FP1ing, if that indeed is a verb, for Audi this year. And Fred Vesti in for Kimi Antonelli. Yes, they found some headphones. Brilliant. If you come into a racetrack, please remember to protect your ears at all times. Isn't that right, Jamie?
Of course. I mean, fortunately for them, the cars aren't quite as loud as they used to be to a degree, but it still gets pretty loud when there's a lot of cars out there. And I think this track as well, it's a little bit, if you look at it it's situated in quite a small sort of space. You know, it's not got the long straights that we see at Spa. It kind of all comes back on itself, and it's one of my favourite tracks, and I keep saying that. It's such a nice track to drive.
We're in a bowl in the Three Springs Valley. Named because there are 3 springs, believe it or not. We're on board in the Cadillac, the Haas, I should say, currently with Ryu Hirakawa. If you want to continue on board for as many laps as Ryu can put in, you can do so. You can also ride with Lewis Hamilton, most successful driver of all time here at the Hungaroring. Use the QR code, makes it nice and simple for you. Go to the Sky Sports app, you need your Sky Sports login, or if you're watching on Sky Q, Sky Stream, Sky Glass, or Now, there's an interactive button on your remote control. Use your finger.
There goes, Colton Herta. So you had Ryu Hirakawa in the Haas. Now it's Herta steaming down towards turn 1 as we jump to Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, a slightly more experienced driver in this machinery compared to the previous 2 that have passed the main straight.
But yet to finish on the podium here at the Hungaroring.
Yeah, he had a tough race last year, didn't he? Where he was battling, I believe, the plank wear of the car and forced to lift and coast an awful lot to try and protect that before each end of straight. But a brilliant qualifying lap to claim pole position. Yeah. Must say, it came out of nowhere. I think he was surprised. He surprised us all and his competitors. So let's keep an eye on what he can do this time around.
Charles Leclerc, last pole position was here at Hungary. His teammate Lewis Hamilton, last pole position was here at Hungary in 2023. Which is incredible for a man who's got 9 poles around this track, and this year could become the first driver ever to get 10 poles at a single circuit. Hasn't got one here in the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it like that, but equally I think his qualifying form seems to really come back this year. So actually we say with the Ferrari, this track is going to be well suited. We know both drivers go well. He's got a tough challenge to beat this man, but equally as the season goes, apart from recent races, he's kind of seemed to have the sort of edge on him in a way. So could be a nice, well, it's not a record, but nice stat to knock that 2023 pole position.
This final corner, to me, always screams patience, patience, patience. You know, you've just got to live with it, however frustratingly slow it might feel, and until you can get the power down.
Yeah, you're in there for a long time. Seems to go on forever when you're inside the car, like going around some kind of huge roundabout. So Kimi Antonelli, championship leader by quite some margin, watches on as Fred Vesti is in his car. And Vesti is no newcomer to this car. He's driven it before and quite experienced actually behind the wheel of a Formula 1 car through different iterations of the rules. So yeah, we watch now George, who really you feel like has to have a better weekend. He obviously had that DNF in Spa last week, and this is a circuit where I feel like George is very strong. It's one of those tracks that suits his style, and it's a circuit, for me at least, that really put him in the spotlight back in his Williams days. Yeah. That qualifying, I can't remember the exact year, but when he qualified and put the car into a position where nobody was expecting, that really put him on the map for me.
Maiden pole here in 2022 for George Russell as well. Was this the track that he first jumped into a Mercedes as well in 2017? They did a test after the Grand Prix. If it wasn't the first time, I think he went out and set something like a new lap record.
Was it a Pirelli test?
Yeah.
I think he might have done. Yeah, seems to ring a bell. But yeah, so this is a circuit where I feel like George's championship can get back on track because if he's going to do it anywhere, it has to be here.
I remember, well, he's gone well here in everything that he's driven in, and I remember doing a day on the Mercedes simulator once, and I think Budapest was an option to drive, and I was thinking I should really hope it's not Budapest, because if George is the reference around there, I don't think I'm going to get anywhere even close. So
hang on,
traffic jams.
So I think Max Verstappen, not hugely happy that Gabriel Bortoleto and Carlos Sainz were right in his tail. That to add insult to injury, they're now diving into the pit lane.
Or he scared them off the racetrack. That's what's happened.
I don't think he's that fearsome just yet, to be fair. And he was on for the fastest lap as well. But I'd like to see that again, and what led up to Max kind of slowing right down, almost parking his Red Bull and gesticulating quite wildly.
He locked up coming out of the corner, which I thought was quite odd. So here he is on the exit of 11. Oh, and they've got on the racing line is Sainz,
Yeah, unbelievable, these guys. That was actually really dangerous. Like, he even slammed on the brakes.
And then tried to overtake him again as Max went very slowly out of the corner.
Yeah, that was Max then on the brakes on the exit of the corner to, I guess, return the favour.
Well, did two wrongs make a right there?
No, they don't. But it's a good thing that we didn't see any bodywork getting damaged.
That was the corner. Was it 6 years ago that Max, on his way to the grid, had the crash? And the Red Bull team did an amazing job to fix the front suspension and replace the front wing. And then Max went on, and I think he win the race, got a podium, second.
Incredible. I mean, that's the last thing you want to do, put your team under that much pressure, and there's not much time in between when you get to the grid and the time that they needed to, well, see what the damage was, repair the damage, and incredible effort from the team there.
I had no radio, cable disconnected, says Carlos Sainz, which might have explained what happened there, that the team possibly were trying to warn him that Max is coming up, and he had no radio and therefore didn't hear the warnings.
That makes complete sense, actually. And Carlos, isn't that was Lewis? Nearly spins, actually, in that final corner. We spoke about that before. When you're off the line, and we've got some support races here, F2, F3, so they've been putting down the rubber, and he got off of that rubber line onto the marbles, and you really see the end result there. But going back to the Sainz-Verstappen situation, it makes complete sense that usually you depend on your team to tell you who's coming up. If he had no radio contact, then yeah, you're only relying on the small mirrors, and it's then hard to decipher who's on a flying lap and who's on an out lap or an in lap. So almost impossible to make that decision.
Especially at a track like this, as into turn one, there's a massive lock-up there. Was that Paul Aaron going into turn one that had the lock-up? We'll find out in a moment. But on a track like this, you've got traffic, and you're never really going to get out of that traffic, so you really are relying on your engineers. This was Lewis at the final corner. We were on board. Yeah,
completely on the marbles, and you're trying to get on power, but the rear's having nothing of it. And he actually lost the rear as soon as he turns in. And the problem with that corner is, as you'd know, Jamie, that the rear tyres they're screaming overheating by that point in the lap, particularly in qualifying. They just carry on overheating through this lap, and you arrive at the final corner and you ask so much from them that you can easily lose.
And the stewards have noted Carlos Sainz for driving erratically. I would hazard a guess, if they want to investigate, they'll ask him to come and see him at the end of the session.
I'm sure if you're going to trip someone up or have an issue like that, the first push lap of FP1 is probably the time to do it, or have a radio issue. But just on board with Fornarolian, he is so impressive.
Since around this, and the car's jumping like crazy. Really bad jumping on the front axle, like really bad.
Interesting. Already Max Verstappen not amused with the way the gearbox and the shifts are performing. Fornaroli stays fourth fastest. Carry on what you were saying, Jamie.
I was just saying how impressive his onboard looks. He's obviously a rookie. He's got a good amount of mileage now in a Formula One car, whether that be the McLaren or a few other F1 cars that he's driven. He just seems to get up to speed so quickly, and I feel like it's been a bit hard done by not to be on the F1 grid in a way. He's won F3, F2 in his rookie years, and kind of goes under the radar. But even just watching his onboard there and going up to P4 ahead of Lando, okay, early days, but shows the quality of driver he is.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Leo Fornaroli. I can't wait to see him in Formula One. It's great to see him out on track here today in the McLaren, and it's a good car to be in as well. And we can monitor his gap to the world champion, current world champion Lando Norris. He's only a 10th away at this point, and for me, he was using all the right parts of the racetrack, really letting the car breathe through the corners, braking late. So yeah, he's a fantastic driver, as you see Leclerc now being held up by his own teammate at turn 12.
Well, just a little look from Charles Leclerc there. Where does Fornaroli go? I'm with you. Would be great to see him in Formula One, but where does he go? Where is there a seat for a very talented F2 champion?
This is a good question, Crofty. Very good question.
Ferrari win பண்ணாதான்
Obviously
Ferrari
with
இது
McLaren at the
பண்ணாலும்
moment, and as we know, both drivers under contract and doing a
Ferrari
brilliant
F1
job
காரே
for the
வரலையே
team.
இன்னும்.
And you've got Verstappen knocking on the door apparently as well there. So might not be McLaren, but you then have to start looking down at the junior teams or the teams towards with all due respect, to the back of the grid. And we just have to wait to see whether seats open up. I feel like he's definitely got the talent and the credentials to be on this grid. For me, it's just a matter of time, but as it stands at the moment, there aren't any vacancies.
There aren't. I asked the question because I'm not quite sure where they can fit him in. Audi potentially, is there a seat going at Audi if they decide that they want to dispense with one of their two drivers? Max Verstappen, by the way, just to break off from the Fornaroli chat, as Leclerc goes quickest overall, but Verstappen fastest in the first sector. He too has been noted for driving erratically. So there's the science bit where he was on the racing line going slowly, and then there's the Max bit where he slams the brakes on and causes Carlos Sainz a bit of an issue.
I almost said, actually, when we had the previous driving erratically with Sainz, I almost said, why hasn't Verstappen got the same potential, or the same investigation going on?
Well, you did say two wrongs don't make a right, you see.
You teed me up beautifully, Crofty.
Teed you up beautifully with that one. And once again, the fifth steward here in the commentary box with us.
But it's an interesting one because, you know, you're frustrated. I get why a driver's frustrated. You throw your hand up in the air or whatever. But the thing that I've noticed with even how Max does that, and he's often done it, he kind of looks into who's in the cockpit, makes it known that they've tripped him up. Kimi started doing it as well. And I wonder whether he's picked up on it from Max, and, you know, as he's grown in confidence. I saw Inspire did it to poor Carlos is getting caught out by all of them. Whenever he's in the way, he seems to be the one that
Season end up பண்ணா ரெண்டு மாசம் கழிச்சா.
But yeah, I think getting away from that a little bit, because it shouldn't really be a tendency of any of the drivers, to be honest.
I remember Fernando Alonso getting a 10-place grid penalty here for interfering, driving erratically with Robert Dornbos, I think it was. And then he was in the championship fight 2006 with Michael Schumacher that year, and then Michael Schumacher the next day. Or was it overtaking with yellow flags? Then Michael overtook someone on a red flag, and he too had to get 10 places on the grid. And Jenson Button went and won the race. 20 years ago this weekend, Jenson Button victorious for the first time in Formula One, and here at the Hungaroring from P14 on the grid. Still the lowest grid spot that any driver has won from around this track. With Isaac Hadjar right down there at the moment after just 4 laps. Ollie Behrman sitting out this one. Ryo Hirakawa is currently P18. Paul Aaron is 14th fastest. Leo Fornaroli 7th fastest, and his teammate Lando Norris just a 10th ahead of him. And Charles Leclerc 3/10 up on Lewis Hamilton, Ferrari 1 and 2. And now that is not a surprise. Confirmation of what I thought about 4 minutes ago, that they're going to ask Carlos Sainz to go and have a little chat after the session. And I would imagine that Max Verstappen might have to take his sandwiches along too, and he'll be asked to go see the stewards.
Because I imagine the chat will be, well, Carlos, what happened? Well, I didn't have any radio. We managed to figure that out when I came in, and that's why I was on the racing line and didn't see a faster car approaching, didn't know he was on a fast lap, had no communication. Okay, we'll take that into account, and that sounds fair enough. Max Verstappen, why did you brake on the exit of turn 12, looking over your shoulder? It looked a bit of a retaliation. You can't really say I didn't have a radio. You know, exactly. If anything, I think he might potentially be in a bit more hot water there with the stewards, and that's how I'd be looking at it anyway.
Just before we finish where is Leo Fornaroli going? Haas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, has he tested for Haas already?
He has.
Jerez?
Been very impressive.
Yeah, Camera,
in the
I think,
tests,
had a test as well.
Yes, so I think from my knowledge, they've both done TPC days with Haas, and Fornaroli possibly not as much on their radar, not being a Ferrari, well, he's a McLaren junior driver, was super impressive. And as I'd imagine, Rafa Camera, I think to kind of go a bit off topic a little bit is the young drivers are clearly so well prepared now. Your F2 drivers that are sort of knocking on the door, that they are getting in the cars at these TPC days, doing a good job, and there isn't enough room for them. So it's kind of, what do you do? Do you take the risk, like, well, Mercedes had to, putting Kimi in, or do you kind of leave them on the sidelines for a while? It's so tricky for them now.
I think a lot of it depends on what Camera, who's currently third in the championship in F2, what he can do this season. I think if he wins it and continues to impress in testing of previous car days, the TPC days that we always go on about, then you'd have to think that being a Ferrari young driver, academy driver, that he surely would have more of a hand up than Fornaroli, unfortunately for him. But you know, we'll watch this with interest. And first of all, like the late great Gilles de Ferran once said to me, Crofty, and I loved it when he said, "Take care of the present, and the future will take care of itself."
You see,
a wise man was Gilles de Ferran.
Very much. Very much, yeah. He said a lot of very good things, did Gilles de Ferran. It's one of the reasons, many reasons, why he was universally loved, not just in this paddock, but in every paddock that he ever graced, quite frankly. 19 minutes gone of this session so far, and this is the fastest man. Well, it was Charles Leclerc for Ferrari, 3/10 up on Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen and George Russell, 3rd and 4th, and Liam Lawson for Racing Bulls, currently 5th fastest. So Isaac Hadjar, I think, is a little bit out of sync in terms of the Red Bull programme here. Very good chance, I think, Anthony Davidson, to have a little lap around the Hungaroring with a man who's finished in the top 6, car number 6, for the last 6 races.
He's doing brilliantly well, is Isaac Hadjar, and we were just talking about F2. He was in F2 not too long, 2 years ago, and finished 2nd in the championship, actually, to Bortoletto. And immediately, now he's in the A team at Red Bull, he's right there knocking on the door with Verstappen pretty consistently. And you've got to be impressed with the job that he's been doing. He comes through turn 3 and then up the hill. It's steeper than what the camera would lead you to believe. Turn 4 is a fantastic corner as you get the car back to the left-hand side to open up turn 5. This long right-hander, car gets out of the way on the right-hand side before this slow speed chicane that Jamie spoke about before. Use the curbs on the right and the left and everything the track has to offer on the exit before tricky section here, turn 8 and 9, and he seems like he was about to back out of that. He was slightly out of position, which can happen around there. Then into 11, which is more of a lift and even a brake these days in these new cars compared to last year. And into turn 12, you see the car just moving around under him as the tyres now start to overheat towards this part of the lap. Has to take another stab at the steering wheel through the penultimate corner of 13 and into this really long, painful right-hander to end the lap. So, yeah, you can see how much the driver has to work here, and I think they're going to have to work harder than ever this year.
I love the fact that it's 2.7 miles long, Jamie, and the tyres are overheating long before you get to the final corner.
It's because there's no real rest at this track for the tyres. You've got the sort of the front straight, and that's kind of the longest run you get at it, and then it's just a lot of long combined corners, change of direction like you have here, and I think that just really hurts the rear tyres. A lot of combined traction as well, and those last 2 corners are just as punishing.
The car feels pretty bad. Right. Very poor.
Obviously, let's wait for the Ferraris to get out there on their soft tyres as well. So that's the next one.
There he is, covering himself now. Just watch out for it, but then watch out for the Ferraris, and then watch out for the Mercedes.
No, but to be fair,
stick with your original point. Yesterday, you were convinced this was going to be a really good race for Red Bull.
Well, that's before we saw any cars on track. But lots of people were asking, you know, as they always do. But this time, it's so hard to know who's going to. I think they're going to be super close, but I think Red Bull will perform, naturally. I think they'll perform better here than they did in Spa.
Just stick to your convictions.
I like sitting on fences, Crofty. You should know that about me by now.
You like sitting on fences.
Oh, look at that!
Oh,
Aaron,
really?
Aaron.
Oh, Aaron.
Oh,
That's exactly what happened to Lewis Hamilton. He was on the medium tyre. Paul Aaron, bit of Tokyo drift in Budapest. Ted, down to you.
So a not connected or an unconnected radio wire seems to be the least of Carlos Sainz's problems. The car's been in the garage for the last 10 to 12 minutes. I actually think this might just be a setup change that's necessitated them to actually put the car on stands, and the driver is still in the car. Carlos is still in the car, so it wasn't like...
2 seconds, Ted.
The rear wing is working well.
Ooh.
Yes. The flapperina, or whatever you're calling it.
Great. Let's not race it.
Well, they're not going to.
I know, well, so you say. I mean, if it's working brilliantly, then who knows what they're going to do. Anyway, Sainz is still in the car. I think it's not a problem. I think it's just a setup change, but it's necessitated the car to be pulled into about 20 pieces, and they're just about putting it together back now.
Thank you very much, Ted. Excellent. Right. For those of you wanting to get off the fence, Charles Leclerc is now on track on the soft compound tyre to help Anthony Davidson formulate his opinion for the weekend.
Wanga Sandy, bro.
That's Q3, Crofty. It's Q3.
So in the company, ladies and gentlemen, of Mr. Dither and Charles Leclerc, here's a lap of Hungaroring.
Leclerc, inevitably about to take the fight to Verstappen in this FP1 session, works his way through turn 1 as we look at the McLaren through there briefly. Now you head down this second straight mode zone towards turn 2, and he takes it quite gently on the approach there, not really hustling the car too much. And we come up to the end of that first sector for Leclerc, and it's purple, the fastest of all by nearly 0.2 of a second, and he made that look pretty easy, didn't he? I must say, through turn 5 the car looks pretty good as well. You're looking for a good rear stability on it.
He had the perfect combination of the front grip with the rear security. It wasn't like the car was moving anywhere, but he was able to get up and close to the apexes. I think turn 2, for example, he's the first driver I've seen be able to kind of carry that tight line without, you know, having sort of the rear kind of step out of him. So only the last 2 corners where I think it's just tyre time.
bro.
Isaac Hadjar making his way around the final corner and third fastest at 4 here. So you notice on the Red Bull and the Ferrari, the extra wings or winglets on the rear wing, giving you more downforce at the rear. They've got it on the Alpine as well. Twitchy, drifty, more drifty, and finally he can actually get his foot down for Paul Aaron. This is George Russell into turn 1.
On the bump again. Whoa.
Yeah, you could hear that. That came just after a super clip where the electric motor kicks in and starts to regen the energy, and that can really disturb. I think we've seen this a lot this year. It disturbs the driver's feel of where they can brake, because you've got a kind of electronic handbrake kicking in first of all before you have to hit the brake pedal yourself, and that instant deceleration, or that deceleration happens quite quickly. It comes at you quickly before the braking point is a disturbance. We now watch Hamilton. A pretty good first sector, not the fastest, but let's see what happens in this middle sector. This really is the heart of the lap, turn 8 into turn 9 where he is now. Get on the power nice and early. I think that's where Russell suffered a little bit on his lap. Through into turn 11, that's where Lando Norris went off the circuit. What is it for Lewis? He's dropped another 3.5 tenths there before turn 12.
I think Lewis ahead of, you know, Red Bull, Mercedes, but very much behind his teammate, which, if you're Ferrari, that's fine. You can then look at your teammate's data and say, right, okay, this is the way that you might need to go in terms of setup. Perez goes P14 on his soft tyre run. Hamilton just misses out in terms of a Ferrari 1 and 2. He's half a second off the pace, and we have a double yellow flag being waved very briefly for a car that might have just gone off the track, I think, there, as Bortoleto goes 6th fastest, Hulkenberg 8th fastest. So far, pretty decent for Audi. We've got another yellow flag. So I wonder, have we got a bit of gravel on the track somewhere? Oh, we've got Lance Stroll stopped, actually, from turn 3, looking up towards turn 4. And Lance has stopped by the side of the track. Oh, dear.
Rear left.
Yeah, red flag. Now, because they're going to need to recover that car, and as you can see, the rear left tyre pointing at a very strange direction, which suggests, Jamie, you're absolutely right, and that's where the failure is.
And you'll be happy the failure was there, rather than maybe going through turn 11 or somewhere like that.
But you really won't be happy if it's a failure due to upgrades on the car and suspension differences combined with the serrated curbs, because you need to use the curbs around this track.
Yeah.
If that's due to curb strikes, let's have a look. Is it on the exit of turn 3? No, it's on the exit of 2. Ooh. That was a surprise. I was fully expecting it to fail over these serrated curbs on the exit of 3.
So as soon as he gets the power down, whoa.
I was not expecting that one.
So something's just gone clock, hasn't it?
Is it suspension or is it just it might be a wheel not on properly?
Do you think?
Could the rear wishbone?
I don't know if it had just been in.
Let's find out, because we've got no, I think
laps bro.
Actually, no, he might have just come out.
Practice 1 hour nadakkum.
No, I think
different tire vechi
I hope for their sake that it is
upgrades vechi check பண்ணுவாங்க.
cross-threaded wheel nut.
அவங்களோட upgrades-உம் tires-உம் check பண்ணிட்டு இருப்பாங்க.
Because otherwise they're looking at something potentially more serious with the car, with suspension failure. I seem to think the wheel at moments it looked too straight, but yeah.
Right, Ted, down to you first.
Well, I was watching the changes they were making. So remember there was a bit with you saw them making the change on Alonso's rear suspension, or maybe it was the lower rear wing, but they were also working on the left rear of Stroll's car. But even when they put the wheel on, they do it up and they check it about 3 or 4 times, and then it's got a locking pin to make sure that even if it's wobbly, it doesn't actually come off like that. Bearing in mind, of course, guys, that a few maybe the cornering loads might overcome that locking pin, but they're not meant to. But yeah, they were working on that corner of the car. So I'm sure we'll get it explained by Aston Martin in due course.
Thank you, Ted. Aston Martin, Red Bull, Macarena wing, running it, both cars?
Are they? Is that for me?
Yes.
Hello. Right, I'm by. Did you know that I was by the Red Bull garage?
Yes.
Is that why you asked me?
I can see you.
Right. Yes, it's on. So you always know it because it looks like a squirrel. It looks like the silhouette of a squirrel, or even a sort of, or even a rabbit. And it's, yeah, I can see it on Max Verstappen's, and yes, I can see it on Isaac Hadjar's. But I can't get too close to actually have a look at it inside profile. Which one have you seen it rotating on?
Well, I thought I saw it rotating on Hadjar, but not on Verstappen. But thank you very much for clearing that up.
Like
something's wrong with the upshifts, downshifts, like downgraded upshifts, downshifts all the time. Understood.
Lewis Hamilton with some feedback there. Yeah, I thought I'd seen it on Hadjar, but I wasn't quite sure about Max Verstappen. But you see Ted right down there, peering into the garage, and he can let us know. So, just under 20 minutes to go here, and we've got a red flag. Lance Stroll and stopping by the side of the track. Is it a suspension problem? Is it a cross-threaded wheel nut? Adrian Newey looking very concerned on that Aston Martin pit wall. And that did look a very concerned face from Adrian Newey, and I'm not surprised. This is a massive weekend for him and his team, and for Aston Martin. So him, the design team, and Aston Martin. So far in terms of pace, yeah, it's been a lot better. They haven't put the soft tyres on yet to go out and do runs, but the initial runs, suggested quite the improvement. But yeah, it's got to be robust enough.
Exactly, it's kind of to Ant's point. They don't want their upgrades to be at any sort of cost reliability. Equally, they need laps, they need mileage on with these upgrades to get data to know what's working, what's not working. It's not a given that everything that they're adding to the car is suddenly going to improve performance, and they've got a big chunk to find. So yeah, that's the last thing they want. That said, at least he kept it out of the wall with that, because otherwise it could have been a lot worse, not just in terms of damage to the car, but also damage to important upgrades that I'm sure they don't have in abundance.
And it comes out of your cost cap as well. That's another sting in the tail. When you have a crash in these cars, you always have to remember that it's eating into your expenditure allowance of the season.
Right, a resumption in just under a minute's time, hence the queue at the end of the pit lane, and plenty still to do for all teams and drivers. Carlos Sainz has only got 11 laps in, and a setup change keeping him in the garage for a while. There's at least one Williams in that pit lane. I'm hoping it is Carlos Sainz as well. There's Fernando Alonso going out, so that my assumption there would be that they don't think it's a suspension failure if they're happy to let the other car go out.
On a new set of softs as well, so that will be the first, I guess, proper indication of where they're at, along with Fred Vesti's on a new soft, so is maybe Ollie Behrman?
It would be Rio Hirakawa.
There you go.
So you fell into the trap that gets me every time when you've got
It's
lots
50-50
of FP1 bros.
and
we'll always get it wrong.
exactly.
So out goes the Haas of Esteban Ocon, first and foremost. Hirakawa's currently second slowest out on the track. Colton Herta, who I think has got a soft tyre run, and he has, currently P18. Paul Aaron, P15 in the Alpine. Fred Vesti for the Mercedes, deputising for Kimi Antonelli, currently 13th fastest, and Leo Fornaroli 12th fastest in the battle of the FP1 drivers. And here he is, car number 72, Frederick Vesti. Now, he's revving that a lot, but it's not moving very quick, is it?
Yeah,
there's a lot of revs for not a lot of forward motion there.
Yeah, I think it's just trying to get the turbo spinning. So it's yeah, just trying to maybe get a bit of charge into the battery, and also just get the turbo spooled up before this inevitably slower than usual outlap. In a mode where you just want to keep the battery as high as you can before you exit the final corner. Someone's already had a lock-up into turn 2.
I wonder if that was Fernando Alonso then. If it wasn't Alonso, it was Vesti, because he was the car ahead of Alonso on the track. "15 minutes to go here, and the car's coming back out onto the track. We're going to get a really good comparison between Mercedes and McLaren in the hands of Fred Vesti and Leo Fornaroli. So it's not so much the driver shootout, but two young rookies in two, pretty decent cars are going to be going for a soft tyre run, JB Chadwick, at pretty much the same time.
Exactly. It'd be interesting to see where Fornaroli kind of ends up in comparison to Lando, more like, because obviously he's running that upgraded rear wing, which hard to judge. The radio message seems to be working, whether it's working better or not, but potentially, I mean, I think track evolution is a lot as well. Sainz gears up for a quick lap on softs as well, but I think the track evolution is going to be significant at this stage.
Great shot of the helicopter at the end of the straight there, which the drivers, I'm sure, can see, hovering and waiting to pick them up and follow them on their 2.7 miles. Vesti starts his lap now, and Fornaroli behind him starts his lap now. So Carlos Sainz through the first sector he goes. Oh, that was a bit twitchy, and
It's so difficult, this circuit, with all the power that they've got available, with this maximum deployment of energy all the time. Every time they get on that right foot, the accelerator out of a corner like here in turn 5, the battery's just ready to go. So he's got someone in his way through the chicane of turn 6 and 7, big time. He's losing out massively here.
Paul Aaron in the Alpine.
Yeah, he's had to make the move down the inside. That's his lap completely gone, and yeah, there's a sign of, well, it's for the rookie driver, Paul Aaron, to understand, okay, sorry, I was in your way. Maybe it wasn't messaged by the team, but yeah, that's a much more experienced driver showing their disapproval.
Fred Vesti, 28.3 for the first sector. Fornaroli was a 36.3, so he's backed off quite a bit.
Just squinting because I didn't know if Carlos Sainz was going to get in his way. Maybe that's the traffic gods repaying what he did to Max earlier in the session back to him. But even with just 2 more cars, it feels so busy out on track. There's always a car in front, and a track like this, any disruption or any car in front of you is going to make a difference.
Fernando Alonso goes 12th fastest. Vesti goes 7th fastest, showing up on the medium tyre, but that was his best lap, I can tell you, on the soft compound tyre. This is why Leonardo Fornaroli abandoned his flying lap on the soft tyre. because of a lock-up into turn 1. He is not the first, and he probably isn't the last that's going to be doing that this weekend. Ted at Aston Martin.
Okay, so thanks to Aston Martin, we have a line from them, and they confirm. Well, they say it's a suspected left rear suspension failure. So that's what they think at the moment. It does raise the question, well, was that partly to do with the work that they were doing on Lance's car in that rear left area before he left the box? And are they absolutely sure about that in terms of sending Fernando Alonso out? I've got to tell you, Fernando Alonso is just about to come back in. So I don't know whether that's, well, I'll see whether he stays in the box or whether he's going to go back out again. But
he's done his lap, Ted. He's done his lap on the soft tyre.
Yeah.
So kind of out, push, in.
Okay, but just as a trailer for anybody, if they're going to watch, do join us for Free Practice 2, because Adrian Newey is going to be in the Team Principals press conference, where we're allowed to obviously ask him all the questions we want about that suspected suspension failure, and we'll have that as a clip for you in the build-up for Free Practice 2.
So what can they do if it is a suspension failure? They can beef it up, but that adds weight,
which they've just got rid of. So
yeah.
but they need reliability. You can't have suspension failures, both from a safety point of view, but I think they need to make that car as robust and reliable as possible, which I guess until recently it had been to a degree, but yeah, then you need performance with it, and that's Formula One. As Leo Fornaroli's improved in the middle sector, but had that lock up on the first lap, his teeth will be chattering a little bit with the flat spot that he has, and yeah, it just looks a bit scrappy on this second push.
Yeah, a long way off. We were going to try and compare the time between Vesti and Fornaroli,
Huge.
Everyone's at it.
Another Williams, massive lockup into turn 1. This time, Carlos Sainz kind of comes to a standstill. That might need to be put into reverse to get out of there, because all end of right hand down is not going to get Carlos Sainz out of that particular spot.
Oh, that was close. You see, even the rears were locked up at one point.
Yeah. Both fronts and the rears, I think, everything.
He really thought he was going to go into the barrier at that stage. So yeah, Fornaroli nicely gets out of the way, opens up the clear track for Sainz. The inside front locks up first, and then he's got everything locked for a brief moment of time. But it's better to absolutely destroy your lap and your tyres than to end up in the barrier.
Seriously, last time I saw that amount of kind of white smoke and that, I think I was watching Wuthering Heights. It's like the moors and the fog that's coming off it there. Is that a driver error, or is that like a brake-by-wire scenario?
It's a combination of things. You know, so he hasn't done, how many laps has he done in this session so far? Sainz, what, 15 laps, compared to some drivers out there have done 19 and 20. So yeah, a few laps under his belt, fewer laps under his belt than some others. But also, when you run overtake mode on a push lap and you get the extra speed on the straight, that extra speed allowance, you're then suddenly arriving into turn 1 faster than you've ever been before, and it's so hard to judge your braking point. So, and then we've spoken about the bumps and all the difficulties. The fact that so many people are doing it means that there's something going on with maybe a tailwind, or just their expectations based on the feeling of last year's car. It means that it must be very easy to do.
Do you remember once upon a time, man, we'd come to Budapest and there would be the flags of all the competing nations.
Oh, yeah.
On top of the Paddock Club, right opposite our commentary box. Yeah, they've taken all the flags away. I've no idea which way the wind is blowing. So I can't tell you whether it's a tailwind or not.
I actually would have thought it was a headwind potentially, but clearly based on the driving erratically. Oh, that's actually in response to what he did to Paul Aaron in the back.
Yes.
So it's crosswind at turn 1, is that right?
That's what our digital weather mast is telling us.
Sorry, you mean our map?
No, it's just spun around.
It's just spun. It's completely changed now. That's good.
Well, see, that makes a lot of sense. The fact that the wind is swirling around a touch, that might have been one of the reasons from our digital weather mast.
Wind, but I think, as Anne said, there's just so many factors now that's making the feeling into turn 1 different. You've got the bump that's probably always been there, the less downforce, the difference in power supply and power delivery out of the last corner to a degree, the top speed that you're getting, potentially the super clip that a couple of drivers are also getting, not on all the push laps, and you combine all of that into one very, very short brake zone that the drivers have only a handful of laps that they've experienced.
Something broke.
Copy box.
I say he's coming in very, very slowly, is Carlos Sainz. What has broke where?
Charles Leclerc.
Sorry, Charles Leclerc, well done. That. Well, I mean, luckily he's managed to get the car into the pit lane and it's not stopped out on track. But you've mentioned these serrated curbs, and I don't know how aggressive they are, but is that a contributing factor, I wonder?
Well, we saw Antonelli's car break in Silverstone by the serrated curbs on the exit at Copse Corner. So, you know, with these new cars, you're trying to make them as light as possible, and you come to a pretty rough circuit like this one, and things can go wrong. But I wonder if that's more gearbox related with Leclerc. He was just coasting there, wasn't he?
He absolutely was.
He had no
Ted,
drive.
Down to you.
No, and there was a burst of fire extinguisher and smoke. Here we go. I think we're going to get some replays. He stopped at the end of the pit lane, and there's a load of smoke. I think it was some fire extinguisher, maybe for some hot brakes. Maybe it's a power unit issue. While all the Ferrari guys were running down there, it was just before, you saw where it was, just before the FIA weighbridge. But there are some marshals down there. I think we're going to see here what the issue was, and the fire extinguisher they had to spray on what I think was hot brakes. But Leclerc's just passing me now. So what, he's lost not too much of the session, but the Ferrari will want to understand exactly what it was that got too hot there.
As he was making his way into turn 13, it looked like Disco Stew was in charge of the lights on his dashboard. What happened, Nant?
Sounded to me like it was gearbox failure. Ted was, it happened under his voice. So I could just about hear as he shifted gear, something just, it didn't sound right. And then he had absolute, he was in coast mode all the way out of 13 and into the pit lane. So, and then shut the engine off. So yeah, he had absolute zero drive from pit lane entry onwards. But the shift of the gear, I'd like to hear it again, maybe do it on the SkyPad after the session, and we'll all have a proper listen. But it did really sound like something failed on an upshift. Usually that's gearbox related.
Yeah. And the lights just went
well,
blinky.
Yeah, that was it. That was it in what do they call it? Anti-stall.
Yeah.
When it goes in anti-stall mode, it would have been not happy at all.
And they can hope that might be a central electronic rather than a mechanical issue with the gearbox itself.
It'll be running a Friday gearbox, as it were, an old gearbox that's in the system. You know, there's no penalty coming Charles Leclerc's way. It's just something that they're going to have to look into at Ferrari. He might have the fastest car with less than 5 minutes to go, but he's not going to finish the session on the track, and he's not going to get a practice start in either on the grid. George Russell's last, this is the first lap of what would probably be a 3-4 lap stint just on the medium tyres to finish off this session. He's just come out of the pits. And the stewards are going to be quite busy in the lunch hour here. Carlos Sainz with 2 incidents for driving erratically. Max Verstappen with 1 incident.
Well, it's going to be funny with Sainz, isn't it? They're going to say, and you know, what happened with Verstappen? Well, I didn't see him, and then on the exit, he kind of brake tested me, and that's a terrible thing to do. All right, yep, noted. That is a terrible thing to do. You mean just like you did to poor old Paul Aaron, the rookie driver on the exit turn? No.
Paul Aaron should be under investigation as well. If Carlos was under investigation for getting in Max's way, then Max is under investigation as Charles Leclerc does.
But it's not for getting in people's way, it's erratic driving.
But still, he was...
So, yeah.
I don't know. I think Paul Aaron, rookie or not, I think clearly didn't know Carlos was coming up behind him. But then, yeah, it's the 2 wrongs don't make a right. And I think they do need to try and clamp down on that, because everyone seems to copy that. And that's why you do see it in junior motorsport. They all watch their heroes.
Don't take the law into your own hands.
Exactly.
If I was going with Carlos Sainz to see the steward about that, Carlos, don't say a thing, right? Just sit there for a while, smile, you know, confirm your name, and don't say anything after that. Because I think you're right, Ed. He could get himself into a bit of bother there.
I think they'll just be reprimanded for all of this in a free practice 1 session. Like you said, Jamie, it's the right time to have these misdemeanors, but yeah, you want to quickly get on top of it.
I think that's exactly what the guidelines suggest will happen, to be fair. Although the guidelines didn't suggest a team fine. Yes, so the Lewis Hamilton pit stop, I got to the bottom of this. The Lewis Hamilton pit stop in Spa, where he unfortunately made contact with the mechanic, and the mechanic was okay there. He wasn't punished for an unsafe release, because he hadn't gone far enough to count as a release. Yeah, your rear axle's got to clear the pit box for it to be, released from the pit box, even though I think it did say unsafe release on the steward's document. So it wasn't an unsafe release, so therefore they could take a view that it wasn't a sporting advantage, it was actually a disadvantage. You could actually put a fine in rather than a sporting penalty on this one, and that's why, even though the guidelines say unsafe release 5 seconds, that's why he didn't get a sporting penalty for that.
So the guy at the mechanic was trying to do the front wing adjustment,
right,
so over the front wheel.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a precarious angle, but yeah, I mean, from a driver's point of view, when you see a green light, in the pits, you go, don't you? So he did have very quick reactions to bring the car to a standstill. One
thing Lewis Hamilton didn't go to was the briefing or the meeting with the stewards last night. The drivers and the stewards got together. He wasn't the only one. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll also didn't go along. There was a consensus of opinion, a bit like, as Anthony explained on the SkyPad brilliantly, by the way, in the build-up to this session, that actually Lewis was guilty of getting a penalty in the incident with George Russell down at turn 1. I think the drivers kind of agree with that.
5.
Turn 5. Yeah, sorry, turn 5. My view, the reason I said so was I think that should be treated like turn 1 on the first lap, to be honest, and I would have been quite happy not to see a penalty. The Charles Leclerc incident at turn 5, I think the stewards actually admitted, on second thoughts, he deserved a penalty.
That was 100% a penalty.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. Well, no, not difficult for the stewards. I think it's very interesting how they can't let the outcome dictate the penalty in a way.
Yeah.
But equally, the outcome of that incident was Oscar had quite a bit of damage. So if you were to look at the outcome,
2 to 3 tenths.
Exactly. If nothing had happened off that, then okay, argy-bargy, however it looks. But he still lost out big time. So whilst they shouldn't look at the outcome, sometimes they do need to, in my opinion, because the reality of that was Charles' fault. And if you're always going to get away with that, then that sets the precedent and the guidelines of what you can get away with.
Yeah, absolutely ruined Oscar's race, to be honest. But I think, the consensus was maybe a rethink for next time, which, and I'm glad they have these meetings and these things all get discussed. And I think the stewards actually get together on the Thursday after every Grand Prix and go through decisions. And there's constant ways to try and improve the stewarding on that. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes we question it a little bit. But worth having the chats with the drivers as well, because at the end of the day, you're the drivers. You're in that situation. You can actually help and advise a little bit.
I think the way I saw it is that Piastri was in a position that he couldn't back out of.
Yeah.
And once you're in that position where you can't back out of it, and contact is made when the car on the defensive line is supposed to give a car's width, and they make contact with you, then it's a no-brainer. I can't believe he didn't get a penalty.
And as drivers, you go to the absolute limit of what you can get away with. It's the same as the teams. They have a set of regulations for the car. They will absolutely maximise those regulations without going over them and risk being thrown out. It's the same in terms of driving standards. And I think if those rules, this is the conversation we always have, but if they get sort of greyer and greyer, then it's very tricky as a driver to know what you can and can't do. And I think this is what we were talking a lot about last year with the racing to the apex situation. And I think, it's 5-second penalties here and there aren't going to be the end of the world, but bigger situations can arise because of it.
Here's an interesting one. Carlos Sainz has been given a black and white flag for impeding. So he was under investigation for driving erratically. Is this black and white flag in relation to the driving erratically in impeding? And does that then carry on into the next session, into qualifying, into the race? And if he does it again, is that liable to be a sporting penalty for Carlos Sainz?
That first message that came up when he got in the way of Verstappen in centre. That shouldn't have been erratic driving. Should have been impeding.
So I'm assuming he's just been shown in football parlance a yellow card here for the rest of the weekend, and he's basically needs to behave himself a bit.
I read it that way as well. So looking back at this session, so Leclerc really set the benchmark with that 19.0, and Hamilton 6 tenths away, or well 5.5 tenths away, but almost 5 tenths away as well, Verstappen. So was it just an incredible lap from Leclerc, or Hamilton didn't get the best out of it? I don't know. Or is Verstappen really there?
We don't know engine modes either. But the one thing I would say is that you both looked at it and thought he's driving really smoothly. He's got a great flow to this lap. He's found the right lines here, so this is going to be a good lap.
And I think that's what is rewarded at this track. If you can get it hooked up everywhere, you can have clean exits, you can kind of carry the minimum speed everywhere without having big snaps of oversteer or suffering with a lot of understeer mid-exit, then that's what's going to give you the lap. And sometimes it does look a little bit underwhelming. And
exactly, we were just riding on board with Fornaroli, their rookie driver this session, and you could see when riding on board with him after big lockup, and he's still on the soft tyres, he's just overexcited, overpushed the car, and that's exactly what's going to hurt you on this track.
And he looked much better at the beginning of the session when we were sort of saying how strong he looked. So I think there is an element of just being a little bit beneath the limit at this circuit. That said, the gaps are huge, and so I would be very surprised if they're like that, well, later this afternoon, but especially tomorrow in qualifying.
Like the accordion that was playing down by the riverside last night, and we'll all concertina together, I'm sure, for FP2 to come. Jamie, and thank you very much indeed. For the 4th time this season, Charles Leclerc is quickest in a free practice 1 session. Charles Leclerc is quickest in a free practice 1 session. Australia and Miami and Monaco were the other 3. Max Verstappen, 2nd fastest, along with Lewis Hamilton, half a second adrift. Isaac Hadjar and George Russell, the only 2 drivers. Good session for Audi. Bortoletto and Hulkenberg, 6th and 8th, and Fred Vesti in his FP1 appearance from Hulkenberg, 6th and 8th, and Fred Vesti in his FP1 appearance from Mercedes was 7th fastest overall. Lindblad and Lawson, the 2 Racing Bulls, both in the top 10. Lando Norris just outside of it in 11th. Fernando Alonso, 13th for Aston Martin. His best time was on the stopping by the side of the track with a suspected suspension failure. Worrying times there with the new upgraded car, but the pace certainly seemed to be better.
Yeah. Ferrari, Red Bull. Audi 6th place ಗೆ ಆಸ್ಟ್ರೋ ಮಾರ್ಟಿನೋட நல்ல வச்சிருக்காங்க. Hey guys, FP or FP1ஓட டாப் கன்ஸ் ஃபெராரி ரெட் புல் தான். மேபி FP2ல வந்து கெமி இப்போ இல்லை, கெமி வந்த அப்புறம் வேணா அது சேஞ்ச் ஆக வாய்ப்பு இருக்கு. இன்னைக்கு பதிலாக இப்போ தேர்ட் டிரைவர் ஓட்டிட்டு இருக்காரு மெர்சிடிஸில். கெமி FP2ல வந்துடுவார் இன்னைக்கு நைட்டு. அவர் வந்த அப்புறம் மெர்சிடிஸ் இம்ப்ரூவ்மெண்ட் பார்க்கலாம். பை பை. FP2 இன்னைக்கு நைட் நடக்கும். FP2 நடந்தப்பறம் கேமிங் லைவ் இருக்கான்னு தெரியல, பார்ப்போம். எனக்கு கொஞ்சம் ஒர்க் இருக்கு, அது முடிவு வரையும் கொஞ்சம் லைவ் இரெகுலராக இருக்கும். ஓகே பை பை கைஸ். சந்திப்பேன் FP2ல மெர்சிடிஸ் முன்னாடி வரும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். இப்போவே எல்லாம் சாஃப்ட்வேர் யூஸ் பண்ண பார்க்குறாங்க. இப்போ இவ்வளோ ஆர்டர் புஷ் பண்ணுறாங்க. FP2ல சந்திப்போம். பாய் பாய்.